Imagine being so tall that every day was a living hell. This is a story about Andre the Giant. SunnyV2 made a video explaining his story and everything about him. I have never heard of him before, me personally. I got recommended to watch him. So yeah, we're gonna watch Sunny's video and we're gonna get into it.
Andre the Giant's size gave him
God,
everything.
7'4"?
The largest and highest
Holy
paid
shit.
and best known wrestler in the entire world.
Once being listed by the Guinness Book of Records as the highest paid wrestler ever.
Damn.
These same genetics, however, made his life a living hell.
Holy shit, he's
with
taking up
Andre
2
famously
seats.
Stating, I
He's
would
big
give
as
much
fuck,
money
too.
to be able to spend 1 day per week as a man of regular size. When he was born, Andre already weighed 13 pounds or 6 whole kilos, which is
Holy.
almost double the average male baby, weighing 3.3 kilos or 7.5 pounds. Growing
I was born
up,
at like
Andre
2,
played soccer
2.9
with
I
his
think.
childhood friends stating he used to be the goalie, but the ball would never go in because he was so big. By the
Actually,
age
I
of
would've won it on
12,
my team.
Andre was 6'3" and 240 pounds or 108 kilos.
When I started going to school, I was bigger than other kids.
He was
Holy
too
shit.
big to fit on the local school
His voice
bus,
is deep
and
as
his
fuck.
family didn't have the money to buy a car that could deal with his weight. As a result, Andre left school to work on a farm, where one day a friend of the farm's owner drove slowly past the field in a Rolls Royce.
God
I
damn.
will own such a car as that someday, Andre said quietly. Stop dreaming and start raking, his father replied. You are a big boy, but that dream is too big even for you.
I said to my dad, someday I could get a car like this. And
It's
he
always good
said,
to dream.
Quit dreaming, man.
Always
Keep
good.
walking.
According to his brother, Andre did the farm work of 3 different men and would drive an unregistered car as the cops wouldn't dare to stop him. When he tried to join the military,
Andre was deemed unfit for service as there were no shoes big enough, bunks long enough, or trenches deep enough to accommodate him.
yet
Yeah.
these same issues made him a wrestling sensation. He'd officially become Andre the Giant, a famous televised
It's looking
wrestler,
a tough name,
but
I can't
more
lie.
notably had grown so much, his own parents didn't recognize him when he came back home.
My parents, they was a big fan of me, they saw me on TV, but they don't know.
Your parents were a fan and they didn't know it was you.
No, because I changed my name.
At over 7 foot tall and 500 pounds or 227
500
kilos,
pounds?
Andre saw a doctor to figure
God
out why
damn.
he'd grown so much.
500 pounds is
Acromegaly
insane.
was the diagnosis. A rare 1 in 12,000 brain tumor causing the body to produce excessive growth hormone. It leads to extra large hands, feet and fingers, as well as a bigger jaw, nose, lips and tongue. According to
Yeah.
Ripley's Believe It or Not, his fingers were so big around that the ring he wore had an opening that could easily fit a silver dollar, which is
Holy.
38.1 mil. To put the size into
That's
perspective,
crazy.
the average man's finger is around 10 to 11
Man,
mil
look at
around.
my hands, for
This
example.
could
My hands
be
are
seen in
tiny.
interviews like this.
This
Like,
is
my
his
finger's
ring,
tiny,
and
too.
I kid you not, I can get all 3 fingers
Oh
in
my
that
God.
ring.
With people on Reddit adding, favorite fact is that Andre was so large, he could push a hard-boiled egg through his wedding ring. My wife met him
No
once and
way.
instead of a handshake, she said she could only shake one of his fingers. These elements made him so unique that when doctors offered to remove his tumor, Andre bluntly refused.
He decided that he didn't want treatment at that time because he thought it would interfere with his career as a wrestler.
It stated, if this is the size
Would
that
it?
God wanted me to be, I'm going to be this size.
I use what God gave me. I'm not supernatural.
Would he shrink if
I
they took
use
it out, or-
myself. So what
No,
God
that makes
gave
no
me,
sense.
I use it to make a living.
However,
That's-
this gave him
that
a
would make
short
no
life
sense.
expectancy.
The commissioned doctors at Madison Square Garden
40?
told me he's going to be lucky to live to be 40.
And meant he'd keep
Oh
on
my
growing
God.
until the day he'd die. By the time he'd joined the WWE, Andre had reached 7'4", peaking
Oh
at
my
560 pounds or 225
560 is
kilos.
crazy.
What size boot is that, Andre?
That's 22. Size
22?
Take a look at that along my size
What's
9.
what's
This
up
made
this
him
Shaq?
the most successful
I'm a size
wrestler
9 too.
ever.
Without a doubt, Andre was the most famous wrestler in the world.
Yet it also
Yeah.
continued to make his life harder.
It's difficult everywhere I go. They don't build anything for big people. They build everything for blind people, for crippled people, for some other people, but not for big people.
Andre
Hey,
was
bro, I'm trying to be
constantly
tall
visiting
too,
new
right?
Cities,
The nature of your job, you're traveling all the time, aren't you? Like 320 nights a year.
Yes.
which came with its
Look at
own
him
set of
next to him. He looks so
challenges.
big.
Hotel beds, are they
Oh my
a problem?
gosh.
Try to find a hotel where they got a king size bed. The worst is when I go in Japan, all those cars are so small.
Sure.
Even in a hotel, I can go through the door, I can go to the bathroom, everything is so smart.
Andre was too large to fit inside most cars.
When I'm traveling with a car, I need 2 cars.
That's right. You can't
Fuck
even
it,
get
that's
in.
oh my
It's not worth
gosh.
the time to live anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you can put 1 car in each foot.
Taking a taxi wasn't a better
Oh
alternative.
my
Funny
word.
story, one time we couldn't get a taxi because he was so big.
And when they finally got one, Andre was charged extra.
We ask him how much he is, and we see the counter, he charges double. So you're a big guy, you have to pay double.
It seems that flying was Andre's only option, where he'd have to book the entire exit row. However, thankfully, he was able to fix this problem.
What about plane travel? Does that get old after a while? Awful?
I go in first class, but I don't drink man.
Despite this costing an absolute fortune,
I'm traveling so much. Last year I buy for $67,000.
67.
there was still another even bigger
Imagine
flying
67K
problem.
back then.
Andre couldn't fit
Added for
inside the
inflation
toilet.
to
He
now it's
therefore
probably
had
like
to
what,
relieve
like
himself
300K?
prior to boarding.
Andre would always time it so that he would take a dump before, he went to the airport.
But in one notable instance, he forgot to go beforehand.
He's up in first class and he tells them, I gotta go. And they're like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?
The onboard solution wasn't exactly glamorous,
He would relieve himself into a bucket and then they bring it in and dump it into the toilet.
but in retrospect, the story's pretty funny.
Smell that started coming out. There
Oh,
was
my.
people falling out of their seats almost into the
Ain't no
aisles,
way.
puking, crying, screaming.
Sadly, this didn't only apply to planes.
He shit on his airplane seat
There's no
into a
toilet.
bucket. Oh
And with
my
monumental
God.
bells came monumental
Ain't no way.
farts.
It sounded like, like a deep roar kind of like thing. It would rumble.
On the set of Princess Bride, this
The fuck?
actually halted production.
Ooh, okay, I know him. I know him now. I know that movie. So I do know him then. Or that's why I recognize his face. I don't know him like personally from like different shows or like WWE, but I seen clips of that movie, so I recognize him for sure.
Fart. The whole plywood set was shaking, and the sound guy lifted his headphones off his ears and was doing that, and it went on for, somebody timed it was 16 seconds.
While Andre's former wrestling opponents thought the wind
What the
lasted
hell?
even longer.
And I could feel my fucking shoulder just vibrate like.
From his
You know how
fart?
long a giant can fart?
Oh my
About
gosh.
40 seconds.
Andre was so different to
40?
everybody else, it got to the point of public ridicule. Hulk Hogan explained when we'd walk through the airports, if he got ahead of me, I'd hear all the unkind things that people would say. Oh my God, look at that guy. It would just break my heart.
They perceived him as a freak
I mean,
of nature, and that hurt
He is a
Andre
freak of nature.
more than anything.
'Cause you never
This
see
guy
that.
was very
You'll never see
sensitive.
that.
Boss, sometimes they laugh at me, they point at me. It hurts my feelings. You never think a guy like that
He looks
would
like-
cry, but he would cry.
Andre stated in an interview,
The last
"I would give much money to be
evolution
able
of
to
humans.
spend one day per week as a man of regular size.
That's what he looks like.
I would shop and I would go to the cinema and drive around in a sports car and walk down Fifth Avenue and stare at the other people for a change. Disguising himself in public simply wasn't possible.
Muhammad Ali could
Yes,
put on a
simply
trench coat
not.
and a ball cap. Andre the Giant couldn't hide in the backseat of a car.
Instead opting to numb himself completely.
He never, ever, ever quit drinking. He drank from the time he got up to the time he went to bed. If he could figure out a way, he'd just done it in his sleep.
While Andre's drinking feats are often
That's
highly
not good.
romanticized, there's no denying he had a serious problem.
He started drinking about 9 o'clock in the morning. He drank I'm not exaggerating, 20 bottles of new Beaujolais.
Doing so to cope with his difficult life.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for sure.
Pain. His spine and his neck and his knees gave him a lot of trouble.
He'd drink 6 bottles of wine before every wrestling match, with Jake the Snake explaining that Andre once drank 48 beers in a single car
unfortunate.
trip.
He drank 2 cases of beer and did not have to piss. How can you do that?
This was nothing compared to a different night.
Is it true that you, in one sitting, drank 117 beers?
Yes.
Were
Oh
you
my
drunk at the end of
word.
that?
117?
I don't remember. I think I passed out.
With Andre's unofficial record being 156 beers in one sitting, which fellow wrestlers Dusty Rhodes and Michael Hayes confirmed. However,
Wow.
this only added extra weight onto
Imagine
his
his
body.
liver.
I myself saw him almost every night.
Imagine his
drink
liver.
7,000 calories worth of alcohol.
Which seemed to be the primary motive for why he eventually quit.
But you don't drink anymore.
Not since 14 months ago I quit.
You feel better for not drinking?
Yeah, because when I was drinking beer, I used to weigh 560 pounds.
And you've trimmed down now to
Right now I'm 470.
This led to the
Oh, that's
infamous
good.
Andre the Giant
Damn,
versus
it meant his
Hulk
liver.
Hogan, after which his career was basically over. When he next came to a match, Andre was using crutches, showing the decline of his physical health. He'd retired to a ranch in North Carolina until he flew back to France for his father's funeral. He'd take this photo after the ceremony without realizing that 3 days later, Andre himself would die of a heart attack.
I'd like
Holy
to announce
shit.
the death of one of my favorite
Really? After
wrestlers,
your father
one of
died?
the most famous wrestlers
Or after
of
his
all
funeral?
time. He died this week in Paris, France, after going home to his father's funeral.
His body was
Oh
too
my
large to
God.
fit in any French crematorium, and as a result, he was shipped back to the USA. His ashes weighed 17 pounds or almost 8 kilos, being just another reason he's remembered as a legend.
Right. Imagine being that tall. Damn, bro. I feel bad for him for sure. For sure.